Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. She's Stacey Mitchell. We've got special guest from Mortgage America, Kyle Sutera, in the house as well, and Gabe is behind the camera. And again, we all work, with the exception of Kyle, at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018, and we're streaming live every week on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Just look up Tom Toole Sales Group. So we're going to lead off here with probably the biggest news everybody's been talking about. I mean, I think buyers are freaking out, and maybe they're a little nervous, which we totally get. Sellers are concerned. The Federal Reserve met last week, and what they did is they raised the key interest rate, so the federal funds rate, by 0.75% or 75 basis points for the, I think, third or fourth consecutive time they made a rate increase. But this is one of the larger magnitude increases that we've seen. And now rates are spiking. Things are changing. Kyle, can you fill us in on what's happened with mortgage rates in relation to this decision? Because to be very clear, the Federal Reserve doesn't set the mortgage rate.
Correct.
They influence it with this policy decision. So before last week versus after last week, what kind of jump have you seen in mortgage rates? And then we can talk about what it means for the market.
Yeah, the Fed doesn't set the consumer rates. There's a lot that goes into the consumer rate. But if the cost of money at its core is going up, interest rates are going to rise. So it does have a pretty large impact on it. They've increased it a few times throughout the year. This one stands out a little bit different to me because of the way they delivered the message.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple announcements, they were a little bit wishy-washy on where they were going moving forward. They left it open to some interpretation, to the idea that maybe they won't increase it quite as much as they have been. And actually, that's caused markets move a little bit in advance of these announcements. So
sure.
Each time this has happened, the markets have primed themselves. Rates have gone up in advance of the announcement. Then when the announcement comes out, they actually settle back down a little bit. So that happened twice. What stands out to me about this particular meeting is their very hard stance on this is happening and we're going to continue to do this. And for that reason, from where we were last week to this week, 0.5% to 0.75% jump, just because there's nothing on the horizon that says that this might not continue. This is the one tool that the Fed has in their belt to try to quell inflation, and it hasn't really worked. It started to look like it was going to, and then it didn't this past month. So they're going to continue to use it, and we don't really see any signs of stopping. So that's caused the markets to really take a jump up, pushing consumer rates towards the 7% or above range.
Yeah, so what rates are you getting today? Someone calls you to lock in 20% down normal credit. What are they looking at on a 30-year fix, the jumbo, and where are FHA loans coming in?
Yeah, jumbos are usually a little bit slower to move, so they're still down in the lower sixes. And to be honest, we're still dealing with a little bit of a fallout. The markets are in a little bit of a tailspin because it's only a few days that this is a few days behind us that this announcement was made. But right now, I mean, you're looking at a high 6s, 7% rate for the 30-year fixed conventional conforming.
Got it. So, ladies, what do you think about all this? I mean, this is not unexpected. I mean, this is kind of what I think everyone thought was going to happen. What's the reaction been like a week in dealing with consumers who it has a really clear effect on what they can afford and how much they're going to pay for a house?
Well, I think what I've been seeing and hearing is that there's, I think buyers have this notion that they're in the driver's seat now because they're hearing that the market's collapsing, the housing market's, the bubble's bursting and everything's coming to a crash, the higher interest rates, and everything's overpriced so they can get a deal. And trying to get that thought out of their minds in our local market, in our area, what we're really seeing and what's really happening has been a challenge. It has definitely been a challenge because when you're trying to, we know what's happening. We know what the facts are and what the data shows. But when you're trying to convince somebody else who's hearing the complete opposite in the news every single day, they're beating this drum that the market's going to crash and, prices are dropping. It's definitely been a challenge, that's for sure, this past week.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like at every step throughout this process since the rates started going up, many buyers are like, oh, interest rates went up, I better pull back. Well, some of these people, like when it was like 4.25%, it was like, oh, whoa, like, we've got to, rein this in. I'm
That looks like a dream now, doesn't it?
And right now that looks really good. So right now we're at upper sixes. Yes, if you compare it to where things were a year, 2 years ago, yeah, it's a little bit of a punch in the gut. But if you're able to make those numbers work and you're able to get with your lender, that's something that can be overcome. I mean, it's hard when you were looking at homes with a different interest rate and you saw what your money could get you, and now maybe that's not going to stretch quite as far. But this doesn't mean that we're at the peak. I mean, this could continue on, and then you're going to be kicking yourself that at the upper 6 interest rate, you didn't move on anything if the timing was right and the right house was there and the right conditions were in play. And I mean, if this is going to be a home that you're in for quite a few years, if they do drop drastically, that doesn't mean that you did something wrong. You can refinance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you bring up a really interesting point, Stacey, as well as you, Sarah, that the buyers and just consumers. I don't think it's just buyers; it's sellers too. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people tend to forget about them. That they think all of a sudden that the entire market has flipped, and really what's happened is the cost of money has gone up to a more normal cost. These are the lowest rates in history ever recorded that we're coming off of. And when I got into real estate a very long time ago, we were dealing with 6-7% rates. And that was leading up to like 2005, 2006. Those are pretty good sellers markets. So I can't agree that they have an upper hand. And we still got a supply and demand issue. This is what people keep forgetting. This is basic economics. And until supply comes up, we're not going to see the market really change to be a buyer-friendly market. Now, what we have seen is a normalization, which benefits buyers. They can get inspections. Mm-hmm. They can get an appraisal done. They can have a mortgage contingency, in your case, Kyle. So that definitely has been a change there. And I think it's less about what's going on right now, because you're right. I said the same thing to your dad. So if you guys don't know, Kyle's with Mortgage America. You can check him out at mortgagebankамerica.com. Him and his father and Kevin Sutera, and they've got a family sort of team set up. And the thing I said to him is we're going to see rates bounce up, and then there's going to be the market's going to settle down a little bit. That's kind of what happens every time is what we've seen. I don't know if that's what you're predicting.
Yeah, it is. And I think the big misconception is that especially buyers have is the rising rates automatically equal a reduction in purchase prices, right? And that's not exactly how it works at all. Remember, the Fed is not trying to deflate housing prices or demand. They're trying to regulate the inflation. So I actually ran a couple like just general numbers, right? The idea of a lot of buyers is to wait for the prices to drop, right? But we don't know if that's going to happen. But what we do know is that rates are likely going to continue to increase. So if you were to take, say, a $400,000 loan, if you increase that interest rate by 1%, you're losing or you're adding about $260 to your monthly payment. If you were to take that price or that loan amount and drop it by $20,000, so you wait a year, you get a price reduction of $20,000. That's only reducing your monthly payment by about $130. So you're still losing. By kind of trying to gamble on the market and the prices dipping, you're still losing half of what you would have gained by jumping in at low rates. And to Sarah's point, I mean, we're not where we were last year. Things aren't as comfy, rates aren't as low, but it does look like we're going to be in a better place now than we may be down the road. So I just don't quite agree with that philosophy of waiting for the market to cool off.
So go ahead.
Well, I always have to ask the buyers when they say they're waiting for the prices to come down. I said, well, how far do you think they're going to drop? Like, are you waiting for them to drop $100,000 or what? If you're waiting for them to drop 10, 20,000, that's like you just illustrated. It's not going to be that drastic.
It's counterintuitive,
right.
yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and to your point, there's an S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index year over year. And if this goes back to the mid, like 1987, roughly, they take like a national index and all these different numbers. Besides the depression of 2008, and I call it a depression because it lasted a very long time, we haven't seen prices go down much more than about 2% since 1987. That's almost 40 years.
I love that data. Thank you.
So, and this is on Housing Wire did a great article about this, and it's something I wanted to kind of quote because they broke down what Chairman Powell said. And I think I'm more concerned about his long-term strategy with housing than what's going on right now. I mean, people can afford homes at 6%. We're still seeing homes sell. That's not the issue. What Federal Chairman Powell said is for the longer term, what we need is supply and demand to get better aligned so that housing prices go up at a reasonable level, at a reasonable pace, and that people can afford houses again. And I think we probably in the housing market have to go through a correction to get back to that place. And really what his comments told me was that his goal was to get inflation down to like 2%. And I think they're predicting like 2.8% by the end of 2023, 2.3% by 2024. They're going to do whatever it takes to get inflation down. And that tells me, and he didn't say this, that he doesn't care what happens to the cost of housing. He's going to crash the housing market to get inflation down. That was what I took away from this more than anything else. I mean, what do you guys think about all this? Am I out of my mind here, or did I interpret this right? I mean, how did you interpret these comments? And there's more, but this was a good summation.
Yeah. I mean, he used the terms bringing the Fed rate to a restrictive level, and he used the term pain to come.
Yes.
And that pretty much confirms what you just said, I think.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound.
Doesn't sound happy.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I completely agree. The language is being put out there that this isn't over. There's, they're going to get inflation under control however they can. And, I don't think that we've seen the peak of where rates are at.
So how far? So you quoted 7 to 8%. I think and a lot of people were wrong because like Lawrence Yun, Danielle Hale, chief economist at NAR and Realtor.com respectively, said rates are going to level off, not that far off. And now we're seeing people all over the place change their predictions for the housing market. Fannie Mae did this. I mean, they came out and they revised their prediction. And there's a lot of economic indicators that other folks are doing the same. So, I mean, I don't think there's any question we're going to see 7 or 8% rates. I mean, that's coming. Mm-hmm. How far is this going to go?
Do you mean like how high up or for how long?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's what everyone's trying to figure out here. I mean, it just I don't even if they. So Kyle, let me ask you this because you're in this world much more than we are. If they came out and raised rates again another 75 basis points, where do you does that get them up north of 7? Do they go to 8? I mean, how much more action is the Fed going to have to take here to really push these numbers up?
I think their plan is to take action. We'll see where things settle out after this announcement. If we do settle out in the 7% range and they hike it again, do we get up to that 8% mark? I hope not. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. But I mean, they were forecasting getting up to their fund rate right now is at 3 to 3.25. They were thinking about getting up to 4.5 by the end of the year.
Yes.
So that could potentially, if they really stick to that could potentially cause a very high spike, at least in the near term, and at least for a little bit. Like you said, until they get, we're 4 times higher than their inflation target right now. So that's a long way to go in a pretty short period of time. So do they get up that high? I can see it. I sincerely hope not.
So what does this mean for the market? And that's the big question that I think everyone's asking right now. If you're a seller, let's start there. And let's assume, like, if you have a place to go as a seller, to me, it's an easy decision. I'd be listing my home yesterday.
Yeah, for sure.
The people that are up in the air, that's the easy decision. The biggest question we get, and I know you two probably run into this more than I do, is where are we going to go? We'd love to sell our home now. We just don't know where we're going to go. So how are you advising clients in that situation where they want to sell, they want to cash out, they realize that the cost of money is going up? How do you walk them through that?
Well, I think there's a couple of different ways that you can kind of take it. One of them is to find out, what is the most important thing for them in this transaction? Do they are they willing to do some type of, temporary housing until they then find the next step? Do they want to, if they want to get as much as they can out of their home and, net as much as possible, then listing sooner rather than later is probably going to be your best bet. How flexible are they with what they're doing next? Are they staying local? Are they moving out of the area? Are they upsizing? Are they downsizing? What all factors are going to be coming into play there? Do they need the sale of this home in order to get to the next one? And have you already been looking? So really figuring out, their timeline and how all of that plays out. If they're just worried about, a couple months there of, okay, so my home goes right away and I'm not into the next one, but I know that, I'm prepped for the market and what I'm going to have to do to get into the next home, well, then we can talk lease back. We can talk a couple different options, but it really depends on, how flexible they are.
Yeah, I think you have to have those very long, detailed conversations with your clients to let them know that there are options. And there's a lot of creative ways to go around about selling their home and getting them into something else. I don't think people realize that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand the options, and they just think, I don't know what they think. They just don't know.
Right.
So making sure that all their questions are answered, that they have all the information, all the options in front of them so that they can make the most informed, best decision for them. I think that's a really good start. And then their goal, their motivation, their goals. What do they want to do?
Mm-hmm.
I know that some folks that I've worked with can do temporary housing.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to cash out. They weren't quite sure where they wanted to go, but they just didn't want the big house anymore. They're
Right.
done. So they were okay with just going into a rental and see what happens. Maybe they were like living on the edge, like, wait, we might even move out of the state. So, and they're the more kind of flexible clients,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some that are more rigid and not risk takers at all. So I think for them, you really have to have a real detailed plan for them laid out.
Right.
But knowing your options is key.
Sure.
What about the home seller? And this is going to be the challenge. They've got a 3% rate on their house. They've got a 3.5% rate on their house, and they like their house. So they kick around the idea of moving. What do you tell them? Because some of these folks, they need more space. So it's the question of, do I add on and do I put capital into the home, or do I trade off this low payment? So how are you walking those people through that? Because I think they're the ones that are in the toughest spot. And it might be like a golden handcuff sort of situation for a lot of these people where they don't owe anything on their home because home equity is at its highest ever, or they owe very little and they've got these super low rates, because that's where it becomes a challenge.
Well, I mean, if you've got those things going in your favor, but you're still kicking around the idea of selling, there must be some reason that you want to sell, right? Like, so I guess figuring out, really, does that outweigh, what outweighs what? Because I know when I meet with people, I mean, obviously, like, we want to get listings. We want to, help these people get their home under contract and get it on the market and yada, yada. But you have to do what's right for them. So if I'll just talk through the options with them and be like, well, what happens if you stay? What happens if you go? What happens if you get this for your home? What happens if you only get this for your home? And kind of play through those different scenarios and then ultimately let them decide, like, what are they trying to do next?
From a mortgage standpoint, if you were to put an addition on or get some sort of builder's loan or construction loan or equity line to do that, I mean, those rates are going up as well. So, and
Great
so are
point.
costs of material costs and labor costs and things like that. So, there's always going to be things that you miss about a house, right?
I love the questions that Sarah's talking about asking, because so many agents, they jump right from, hey, I just met you at a house, now let's go buy the home. And the in-between run-up that is critical for any business process, no matter what, whether it's qualifying, rapport building, just the day-to-day interaction of seeing homes and figuring out what you want. So many people want to skip that, and that's where I'm clear consumers are getting lost right now. They don't have the right guidance because so many agents just think, oh, I'm going to meet you at the house, let's go buy it, sounds great. And there's not that follow-up or that incubation period that I think everyone needs in a lot of cases when they're buying and selling homes. So it's really about asking the right questions is what I'm hearing, and getting people to the root of their motivation. What about buyers? Because I know a lot of you, and you two specifically, and you probably run into this too. I'm going to wait for rates to come down. I'm going to wait for this. I'm going to wait for that. And meanwhile, they've now cost themselves hundreds of thousands of dollars over the time of that they're owning the property. What are you telling those folks right now? Because this is real, and the agents that can explain this are the ones that are actually going to help people buy and sell real estate.
Well, I asked them their current living situation. Are you renting? What's your rent? How much do you pay a year in your rent? Are you going to be able to do month to month? Are you going to be able to do 6 month? Do you want to sign another year? And how much is that going to cost you? So I think when you put it to them that way, and they realize how much money they're actually laying out for nothing to pay somebody else's mortgage and their insurance and taxes, that the light bulb goes on then, because I don't know if they think about it in that aspect. But when you lay it out there and they see the dollars where it doesn't go to anything, and then just generate a bunch of cost sheets, different price points, the interest rates, different closing dates. When they can actually see what it's going to cost them to get in and their monthly payments, that's valuable information. I mean, they can really have a clear idea of what it's going to cost them and what they're giving up.
Right. And I think, especially with people who have been renting, maybe they're first-time home buyers, when they look at their finances, you explain the market to them. Maybe they don't get their dream home. Maybe you have that in-between home. Like maybe this is a situation where you don't get everything, as is often the case. There's, if you get like 75% of what you're looking for, that's a good home for you. In most cases, you're not going to get 100%. So I think kind of helping people become a little bit realistic with, maybe this home that you get now isn't going to have everything. But like Stacey was saying, look at the money that you're paying on rent that's going towards nothing. This could go towards this. And then, down the line, we can look at that upgrade to the next home. And I think also, talking about what is it that you can afford per month, right? And then playing with those different rates, those different numbers, and, showing, well, you can afford this even at this interest rate. You know what I mean? Like it might be a little bit of a punch in the gut if you're sitting around, having drinks with friends and everybody's talking about their interest rates that maybe you didn't
I've never been to one of those parties. I don't know about you guys.
They are so cool. But maybe you didn't get the very best rate, but you got the house,
But you can sit around and talk about your great house that you got.
Right, right.
Exactly.
You're not renting anymore.
Right.
I actually own my home.
Right. Steer it towards that.
Yeah.
Control the conversation.
Right.
It's good.
It's hard to beat the market, right? It's
Right,
hard to
yep.
predict the market.
Yes.
Even the people that get paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it as a living are wrong many of the time. So
And that's why they have to adjust all their
exactly, that's why they adjust
predictions,
their
right?
forecasting, right? So if you told buyers that rates were going to plummet in March of 2020, I don't think many people would have seen that coming. So, get comfortable with where you can be on a monthly payment. Don't get so caught up on the rates and where they're going and what they're going to be, and let that distract you from, like you said, getting in the house that's going to help you and your family, take that next step into your future. We don't want you to overextend, right? You just might have to reset sights. Let's get comfortable on a monthly payment. Let's not try to overthink it, and let's get you, the house that you actually want, rather than the rental that you might spend the next 4 years, kind of beating down the doors in just because you think you can get a lower rate sometime.
And you're buying a house.
Right.
You're not buying a car.
Right.
You're not taking a 2-week vacation to Italy or something. You know what I mean? You're buying a house.
You're buying an asset that's going to appreciate, which a lot of folks don't
Right.
get.
And some people don't have a problem buying an $80,000 car with, an 8% interest rate.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Where do I sign? You
Right.
know? But no, Tom has a problem with that. But
I have half a brain.
exactly.
So you brought up something really good, bringing different closing cost estimates. To me, that's the financial plan to get into a home, and that's what everyone should be looking at. If I was an agent, I'd be circling the monthly payment at the bottom and the cash to close. The other stuff you explain, obviously, those are your numbers that people want to understand. So I couldn't agree more there. And it's just, I think what you said, it's like, are you okay with this? And you're talking about going somewhere interim. Maybe they look at an adjustable rate loan if they know they're going to be a first-time buyer and only live there 5 years. Like there's other options that are out there that have real savings. And that's all the more reason you've got to talk to someone who knows what they're doing. Instead of just trying to sell you a house, they got to walk you through all this because there's a lot of noise in the marketplace right now. I mean, this has been dominant headlines, the most aggressive Fed language I've ever seen. And so there's a lot to navigate here. All the more reason to get someone local that can help you. And I think that's probably the summation of all this here. And from the realtor side, I would argue that no one ever really buys the home because of the interest rate. Like you just moved. Did you buy the home because of an interest rate or because you had to move?
We had to move.
You had to move, right? Same. I mean, I think we all could probably say that. So it's going to be the folks that actually have a reason to move are going to be the ones that transact versus the ones trying to time the market. It never works out. I've had clients try to do it and it blows up in their face every time.
We have many clients that have tried to do it
They
over
don't
the past
listen to
couple
you.
of years,
Yeah.
and look where we are.
Exactly.
Yep. And I learned something, that the historic interest rate, the national historic interest rate is 7.7%. I didn't know that. So when people say, oh, It's going to go down. No, that's the historic average interest rate is 7.7%.
So we're still below average.
Yes.
I like it.
How about that? So that's
Right.
a big win right there in my
Right.
book.
That's a great perspective to have. So we're going to take a quick break on that note. A lot to talk about with this Fed meeting. We're going to come back. We are going to discuss that Zillow is working towards their super app, and there's a little bit of a Homesnap Co-Star beef sort of controversy brewing. This is Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
Buying a home or already own one? We can help. I am Kevin Hamill from Alliance's Insurance Agency. If you haven't reviewed your policies in the last 3 years, now's the time. New home buyers, there are a number of ways that we can help you get to that settlement table. Call us to find out more at 610-816-0043, extension 3, or visit our website, alliancesinsurance.com. Don't forget the S, it's for savings.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30-plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now, here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it out at realestatescholarshipprogram.com or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
For the best local mortgage service and great rates on your money, look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth, easy access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized, local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America is an equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
Welcome back to Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacey Mitchell. She's Sarah Tymon. We've got Kyle Sutera here from Mortgage America. You can get in touch with him at mortgagebankамerica.com. And we've got Gabe behind the camera. And we all work, with the exception of Kyle, at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're streaming live every week on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Just look up Tom Toole Sales Group. So, Zillow's back in the news. They're building this super app. I'll explain to you what that means in a second. And then we also have Co-Star, who bought Homesnap, which is, I've heard, is one of the best apps out there for real estate. I want you two to explain that, because I've never used it. Just kind of being in the role that I am, and it's continued to progress and revolutionize the industry. So the short of this is, about a year ago, Co-Star basically said, hey, Zillow, we're coming after you, in no uncertain terms. If you don't know who Co-Star is, they're a commercial sort of web portal, and now they're getting into residential. They bought Homesnap, which a lot of agents use. So that's been happening. So on Monday, Zillow rolled out its newest piece of tech. It's called ShowingTime Plus. ShowingTime is a service that we use to book showings, manage feedback, see who's going into properties. And with ShowingTime Plus, it looks like they're trying to make it easier for agents. So the kind of the genesis of this is that the average agent right now uses more than 12 different software products throughout a transaction. I feel this personally. I mean, we use a lot of tech, right? Mm-hmm. So that can be time consuming and costly. And what they're doing with Showing Time Plus is they're trying to reduce the transaction friction for everybody by having an open platform for agents to run their business. And because 90% of home shoppers and sellers work with an agent, and at Showing Time Plus, they want agents to be able to just log everything and book it that way. So Zillow also owns .loop, a contract software, and they own some other things as well. So really what's happening here is that Zillow's trying to build their super app. And what they mean by that is they want Zillow to be the place to go for buyers. They've always been very consumer-facing. So what do you guys think about this? I mean, this is a little bit of a turn from Zillow, which is, hey, we're going to buy and flip homes. That didn't work. Then we want to make the consumer the forefront of the transaction. And this is the first public acquisition that I've seen that actually is agent-friendly and making it easier to schedule showings. So what's your take on this?
I mean, I'd kind of want to see how it all pulls together. So they're saying that you as an agent would it be starting from like a agent side Zillow site that then you're booking your showings in that rather than through the MLS, and then it's moving that data that you would have, I guess, already input about your client into .loop to like lessen the amount of like entering in of data that you're doing?
Yeah, so the intention here, and I haven't seen this yet, so this is all speculation. Not speculation, but you don't know until you use it, right? So the Showing Time Plus software, they're combining the services and products from Showing Time, .loop, 3D home tours and interactive floor plans, as well as something called Bridge Interactive, which I have to look up here. I don't know what that is. And they're making it all one spot. So instead of, Boomtown does a little bit of this, so we use our Boomtown CRM, so it integrates with .loop, although a lot of people don't use that integration.
Right.
It integrates with Google Calendar. It combines the pieces together, and Zillow looks like they're trying to do the same thing. So it's more than managing it all in one spot. Bridge Interactive streamlines MLS workflows and data access. So it sounds like it's kind of like a Homesnap almost.
Yeah, but Homesnap, you can't.
You can get like disclosures and things from there, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
schedule showings through Showing Time. You can just click right and it takes you right into Showing Time.
Yeah.
You can't obviously do what .loop, like generate.
Right.
No,
Right.
I think it's more here's the data, here's the documents you need, those sort of things, because we need to download disclosures and offer instructions and those sort of things. So it helps streamline the MLS workflow and automating data. So when you put something in one place, it goes everywhere instead of we got to enter the showing instructions here, and we got to do it here, and we got to do it here. Bright MLS, our MLS, does work with Showing Time directly, so that might, we have we're the second largest MLS in the country.
Yeah.
So we have a benefit there versus like the one in South Jersey that like half the Jersey Shore uses, and all these other ones that are a little more fragmented.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a way to capture even more data, and just to have the agents become more dependent on them. That was my first initial take on the whole thing. It's like, oh, they're just.
So you think it's the opposite?
I think it's what do you mean? I think they're
not empowering agents. They're trying to take control away from agents.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Well, I just think they're going to get everybody hooked on it. It's like TikTok. They're getting everybody hooked on it and addicted to it, and nobody can get off TikTok. And meanwhile, everybody's capturing every move you make. Like, wasn't it? What did we talk about? Zillow monitoring.
Oh, the
every
screen thing. Yeah.
on our last program.
Right.
So I think this is all part of that.
Right.
It's just being the big behemoth and everybody having to continue to utilize their platform. It's just going to be a monopoly. Yeah.
I like consolidation as someone who does not use these services. But in our industry, we have similar. It's different products are piecemealed, especially in the tech sector. I personally like consolidation, less passwords. I like everything to speak to each other. The question is, how efficient is it? Right? That's the proof is in the pudding kind of thing. When this thing drops, how well does it work? How well do all these things really collaborate? And if it all works seamlessly, then I think it saves you guys a bunch of different logins. But we'll see, Zillow.
But I'm thinking like once you're in there, you're still going to have to like shoot off to .loop to do it. So like, so you got into it a different way, but I feel like you're still going to have to be doing all these different steps. But now,
if it works like
info,
that won't help.
Right. And like, maybe info will like, auto filter into some of these different things. But then I guess make sure that your initial, this would go with like any of the pieces, but you've got the right data in the one source that everything's pooling from. You're not having it like pool old data out into pieces of it. But I don't know. I mean, I guess like potentially it could save you a little bit of time. But we'd have to see how it all comes together.
Yeah, my view of this is the first step of many. They're going to continue to buy other companies and build their own tech stack. And if you're going to buy any of them, Showing Time was the one to buy. That's the most utilized out of all of them. So, and Dotloop is the same kind of thing, where it was the most utilized out of all those different document softwares. I'd argue it's a lot better than what we used to use with like DocuSign and those sort of things. So I'm clear we're going to see more of these, and they're going to continue to try to build that tech stack up, because they tried flipping homes. Horribly wrong. Didn't go well. They have these flex accounts, right? And now all of a sudden, some of the flex teams aren't performing, and they're taking connections away from them, and they're going in a different direction. So I think they're still trying to figure out what their best business model is going to be. And the best thing Zillow has going for it is that it's synonymous with real estate. The brand is tremendous. So if they can bring everything in-house and just they get 3/4 of all the internet traffic right now for consumers.
Right.
Lean into that and make it the place to go if you're a business. I mean, that's what I'm clear they're doing right now, because they've realized their brand's better than any of these other programs they're trying to roll out. I mean, that's just my observation here.
Right. I mean, and I think that getting Showing Time and Dotloop, I mean, that was huge. Like, think about the amount of information that they're able to gather from those two pieces. They're able to see, like, what agent is showing who, how many offers is that translating into,
and all the data on the
and
agent.
all the data. Yeah.
Do they like you?
Right.
Do they not like you? What can they do? Can they manipulate your algorithms? I don't know. I just am very leery about having all my eggs in one basket, especially when they notoriously wanted to get rid of agents altogether.
Sure.
So I fundamentally agree with that. I mean, we've talked about
nervous.
this. So I totally agree with you. You can't go all in on that. From their company, I like the strategy. I'm not saying it's the right strategy for a real estate agent. And, to your point, they do have a lot of data. Now, I don't know about like the liking or the agent percentile there. What I do know is they get real-time showing data. They get real-time data on contracts that are getting executed and written. So they have real-time data that usually is lagged 60 to 90 days. So like when we get we don't even get the August market update till the middle of September. Like they already have it. They know it's happening before it gets reported in a lot of cases because of the way Dotloop works. So to me, it's a very smart play for them, and I'm clear we're going to see more of this. The flip side is I don't think they're alone in the space. And this is the thing we've been talking about for a good bit on the show here, which is that, Co-Star. So Co-Star is a commercial real estate sort of portal. And they acquired Homesnap at the end of 2020 for $250 million. And can you explain the Homesnap app? Because you've used it, I haven't. How does it work? What do you like about it?
I mean, I like it for when you're out on the road, because you're able to get all of those disclosures. Any document really that I think would be uploaded into the MLS is uploaded in there, and you're actually able to get it while you're on the go. It's an easy to read format. It gives you all that info right there, and it pulls up comps like for you.
Totally. It's so easy. It's very user friendly.
Yeah.
And when you're at a showing, you can just totally by your location see what other listings are close by that are active. There's a lot of filters, so you can filter down to, say you want to go out and do some door knocking, right? You can filter down who's been in what neighborhood X amount of years. So say 20 plus years, it can be a filter. So you can door knock those folks to see where they are as far as their home sale process or their home sale thoughts. So I just think it's just a great tool to utilize for many different things, not just for buyers, but for sellers also. I love it.
And it's like, it's user friendly, and it's like something that's easy to use while you're on the go.
Yeah, totally.
So that was a smart purchase, at least I thought so, for Co-Star. And then they had a partnership with what's called the Broker Public Portal. It's a company formed by a large group of brokers and MLSs to launch the first national public-facing MLS website, which I think would be a great idea, where all the data is reported. There's none of this nonsense of agents like making up sales numbers, which constantly happens. I mean, I see it in interviews. People tell you they sell 100 homes, and they look it up, and they sold 15. It's like, did you just make this stuff up? You don't believe any of this, Stacey, because you're so focused on your business. I'm telling you, this is what happens. And So
Crazy.
now they were trying to form, and what it looked like CoStar was doing was we got Homesnap. Now we're trying to build this portal to compete with companies like Zillow. So now these companies are effectively ending their partnership and going separate ways. And they had a 50-50 venture that they've had since 2016. They're shutting it down October 31st because the MLSs could not agree on the right way to display the data and the right way to, like, the one-size-fits-all approach, which I have a really hard time with. I mean, I know state laws are different in some places, but so they've effectively split up. So this tells me Zillow's just going to continue to dominate. This was the one company I thought would actually be able to take them on and try to, disrupt them a little bit. And now that these guys are splitting up, I mean, the app's still there, CoStar's still there. I think they lost some momentum here. So what do you think about this?
Yeah. I think definitely them buying Homesnap at $250 million was definitely a bargain, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
My concern with Homesnap, though, being you being able to schedule showings through Showing Time, would Zillow pull, since Zillow owns Showing Time, would they obviously they must have an agreement to be able to do that. Would they eventually, if the competition got too stiff, would they eventually take that away, that option to be able to schedule through Showing Time within the app of Homesnap? You know what I mean? I don't know. I think about those things too going forward.
That's a great point because CoStar intended to follow the "your listing, your lead" rule that's part of the fair display guidelines for this BPP, the broker. Yeah. So what's it called? I'm sorry. The broker.
The BPP.
Yeah, the broker public portal, right? So it was originally your listing, the lead goes to you. Zillow obviously doesn't do that. We're a flex team. We know how it works, and so I don't think that's even going to affect Homesnap and CoStar. So, but it also puts them a little bit at a disadvantage in my view.
So so the different MLSs couldn't agree with each other, which is why they split ways with CoStar?
Pretty much, yeah, because it's like Bright's a very influential MLS. Then you got the California MLS is the other large one, but there's all these like smaller ones that are all over the country. And like some states you have to display different things. And that probably was a part of it. I mean, you run into this all the time, Kyle. Every state's different in terms of how you have to lend mortgages. So that to me was that to me was part of it. I just it seemed like that was their way. Homesnap to me was the way CoStar could compete. I thought that is that because it's such a well adopted app. It's got a very high user base from agents, and now in order to keep Homesnap Pro, about 100 roughly MLSs are going to need to sign a direct vendor agreement with Homesnap by November 1st to ensure uninterrupted service. So I mean that's going to be another thing because we had Realmine on with Bright, and they just got rid of it. They didn't renew the agreement where you could look up phone numbers and those sort of things.
No, that was so annoying.
Yeah.
I was so annoyed
Sarah
when that
took that
happened.
personally. Did you see
I
that
did.
reaction?
I did. That was so annoying.
But that's what you're dealing with, though. You're dealing with these people that come up with stuff. I mean, the MLS also came up with the clear cooperation policy, which to me is kind of a joke because it says the sellers, they can't do what they want with their property, even though it's their property, and we got to follow some arbitrary rules. So to me, this is just, I think this tells me Zillow's just going to continue to Zillow along. They're going to do their thing. This was the one threat I saw.
Yeah, it's definitely a setback. That's a shame. Because the MLSs couldn't agree.
It blows my mind that they couldn't just get on the same page with how they're going to display it. Even if every state's different, that's 50 problems.
Right.
Right? You got a lot of smart people getting put in the same room. I don't know. Smarter than me, I guess. But I like to think you could have figured something out.
Right. I mean, we're talking about different what information's displayed.
Right.
Like how different can it possibly be?
Right.
That some states were like, no way, we are definitely
Allowing
not allowing that out
there.
there.
Right.
I don't understand that. Too many egos involved there, I guess.
Well, the BPP is trying to find companies that will help them create this national data set. It just I don't understand why this is such an issue. I don't understand why you can't just go somewhere and you look up, here's everything that's available and here's the rules you have to follow. And to me, it's a classic example of like the federal government can never get anything done, right? They're fighting the whole time. That's exactly what's going on here. Yeah. And real estate is full of people doing things a certain way because they've been done like that for
forever,
like centuries at this point. And anytime you do anything different, you get these people coming out of the woodwork saying, well, I've been doing this 50 years. And I'm like, great, you should be retired by now. I'm sorry to hear that for you. So this is just another example of realtors getting in their own way.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if this comes back here. So we're going to take a quick break. Zillow's going to continue to Zillow its way along here. And we're going to talk about, after the break, something I found pretty shocking, that renters are spending 26% of their income on rent. Big number. This is Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
You shouldn't have to deal with all the red tape when getting your mortgage from a big or online bank. At Mortgage America, we have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed service of a local bank. We are here in your community and ready to serve with fast settlements, low down payment options, and first-time homebuyer programs. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. For more information, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
Buying a home or already own one? We can help. I am Kevin Hamill from Alliances Insurance Agency. If you haven't reviewed your policies in the last 3 years, now's the time. New home buyers, there are a number of ways that we can help you get to that settlement table. Call us to find out more at 610-816-0043, extension 3, or visit our website, alliancesinsurance.com. Don't forget the S, it's for savings.
The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a great place to work with and to work for. No one knows Greater Philly better than we do. We know real estate, but more importantly, we're real people. We hire the best agents, and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even our brand new agents sell 17 to 24 homes a year because our team delivers the best experience in real estate. Teams deliver a better experience than individuals, and we're a top 1% real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor. Because this isn't a transaction to us. It's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Sell your home for more, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line.
All right. We are back on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. She's Stacey Mitchell. Kyle Sutera with Mortgage America is in the house as well. You can visit him at mortgagebankамerica.com. And we've got Gabe behind the camera. Everyone but Kyle works at the Tom Toole Sales Group with RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're streaming live every single week on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So I want to share an alarming stat. We talked about this, and this was something that came out from the August rental data report that Realtor.com came out with. And the statistic was, this was kind of mind-blowing to me, that 26% of income in the month of August for people that are renting went to their rental payment. So a quarter of your income is going to rent. And obviously, that depends on what you're renting, what the numbers are. As soon as I saw that, it just told me that affordability is continuing to worsen, especially for renters. So when you hear that number, ladies, what do you think right away? And then Kyle, I'd love you to chime in as well because you deal in the world of payments and rates and all that stuff.
I would say that in addition to the fact that that's a high percentage of your total income there that's going towards that is the fact that yes, you're locked into your lease for typically 12 months, give or take if you do a different lease option. But you're only guaranteed that for that amount of time. So, there's no certainty moving forward if you plan on renting for several years that, even staying in the same place that, you have no control over how much that rent is going to go up.
Right. If your lease is a year, it's probably going to increase.
Right.
Going into your second year.
I would assume so, because look at what's happening from what we've been talking about this whole show is from the mortgage rate side. Their whole goal is to stop the demand of home purchases, right? And if that actually works, if that actually happens, and people still need to move, they're going to have to rent. And if that rent demand is increasing, inherently the prices of rent are going to go up. So it's already started to happen. I think we've seen it over the past year or so. I don't see that stopping. Yeah,
it's kind of like the same situation. I had a client that sold her house and she was looking to rent because it was a divorce situation, so she didn't want to get into a new house yet. And she had such a problem trying to find a rental because it was similar to the housing market. There was probably like 12 applications, as soon as the unit hit the market. So, and that was not that long ago. And I'm sure it's pretty similar. So it is, it's kind of parallel to the housing market as far as the increases. And people have to live somewhere.
So part of this too, you talk about the appreciation. So the latest I shouldn't say appreciation, rising rental costs might be a better word. The latest Redfin report does show that rents have risen across the country, but the growth has slowed, similar to housing prices. So they're not going up as fast as they were. And the trend is likely going to continue. So we saw just in the median national asking rent price went from just about $1,600 in 2019 to up to $2,039 in August of this year. So that's a major, major jump there. I mean, you're talking about a $4,000 increase roughly, which is huge. And, now we've seen that drop a little bit from like February to August, but it's still up dramatically. You're looking at a 19% increase through the first quarter, and now it's up a little over 11%. And when I see this, I look at the median rent size by unit. The median rent size for a two-bedroom is $1,964, and that's for the whole country. And then in Philadelphia specifically, a two-bedroom would rent for $1,889. So I did a little math here. I wanted to share this with everybody. So if you took the average sale price for a two-bedroom property in Chester, Bucks, Montgomery, Delaware, and Philadelphia counties is $305,000 and change. So let's say you found a home around $300,000. I used the price of $275,000 for an active listing at a 6.75% rate with 20% down over 30 years. Your principal and interest is $1,426. Then you got taxes. You've got maybe an HOA fee or something. It comes out to $1,819 is your monthly payment. So it is documented to be cheaper to buy a home if you have the cash than to rent a property. And if these numbers keep going up, I just don't see how it makes sense to constantly look at rentals. I mean, how are you explaining this to people who don't want to buy something and they say it makes more sense to rent? Or obviously we know the objections about prices coming down aren't going to be accurate. How do you explain this to them?
It's just that money is going to someone else. It's going nowhere. That money is gone. When you terminate that lease and eventually move out to wherever your next move is, because it's temporary.
Right.
Everybody knows it's temporary.
Right.
That money is gone. It's missing.
Yeah, and those numbers improve if you think about at least a couple $100, $200 or so of that monthly payment that Tom just put out there is going directly into paying the principal loan down. So that's going right into equity, not even taking into account, the appreciation of the home or anything like that. So it makes those numbers even, sway even more towards the buy side.
Correct. Right. I mean, I think showing them the numbers and then also like, all right, how long have you been in this rental? Do you have plans on leaving the area, or like, are you going to be staying in this general area for the next several years? Like, if so, it makes sense to put this in something that's gonna work for you, and it's gonna allow the money to grow for you and do something for you, and not just be something that you say bye to and then you move on. I mean, I would say the exception there would be if you're somebody that relocates your job every couple, like once a year or something like that. Like, sure, then, rental makes sense for you. But otherwise, I mean, if you plan on being here for several years, it's worth it to look at the numbers and find out what you could get on the purchase end.
Well, it's documented. Keeping Current Matters does a great job of this. That people that own their home, their net worth is on average between like $300,000 to $500,000. A lifetime renter, their net worth is like $30,000. So it just doesn't make it. I mean, it's life changing for a lot of people. That allows you to retire in some cases, and so when people are on the fence about this, there's a couple questions I'm clear that you want to ask as an agent. And we're going to get played out here in about a minute, so I'll go quick. What's standing in their way? Like, there's got to be something they're probably not telling you, and most real estate agents don't ask these type of questions. So find out or get to know what's standing in their way, whether it's reduced buying power, which a lot of people are feeling right now. I mean, how many times have you heard that over the past 90 days? All over, a lot of yeses. Yes. Concerns about declining home values, which we know is not accurate, so we can share some charts and graphs about that, or uncertainty as to where they want to live, which I think that can be the case. A lot of people just don't know what they want to do.
Right.
So maybe ask better questions, get into the qualifying a little more, and then help them identify what they really want so they can decide if renting versus selling makes sense. You talked about providing like a closing cost sheet. Well, if they find a home they like, show them what the payment's going to be. It's all about the payment. I think that's
right.
the biggest key coming out of this.
Yep.
So that's what we got this week on Tool Time Real Estate Radio. You want to get in touch with Kyle. It's Kyle Sutera. Kyle, what's your email?
Kyle at mymortgageamerica.com.
And you can visit them at mortgagebankамerica.com. You can follow Stacey on Instagram. It's at @2 Mitchco. You can follow Sarah on Instagram at Ty_TyTime. That's with a Y. You can follow me at Tom Toole 3RD at Tom Toole 3rd. We're live every week on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Tuesdays at 3 o'clock. Just Google Tom Toole Sales Group. And thanks for listening.